listening to the Fifth Down Fantasy Football Podcast with Johnny Slopes
top 3 to 5 pick next year.
and Camila.
For the value you could have gotten at Ryan at,
I almost had 5,000 yards, but no, you don't want me. What you're saying is Wayne Gallman is the Dustin Funches of running backs?
I guess you could say that. I guess you can put me down as a for saying that.
We now bring you to the Fifth Down.
What is up, Fifth Downers? I'm your host, Johnny Slokes, and you're listening to the Fifth Down Fantasy Football Podcast. And with me, as always, is my partner in crime, K-Mill.
Yo, what's up?
Yes, and today we're going to be doing our Week 8 waiver wire show. And I know that a lot of people are going to be having a lot of bye weeks here for Week 8, Week 9. This is going to be the most bye week heavy weeks of the fantasy football season. Kimmo, what was your favorite game this past weekend?
Definitely not the Broncos game because we got fucking shut out, and I was hoping it was going to be Cincinnati-Pittsburgh, but that didn't come to fruition. I think this didn't seem to me like there was any exciting games. I think Thursday was really the game of the year so far, and that was the one that did it for me.
Yeah, that definitely probably was one of the best games all season, actually, Thursday night regardless. But there was a lot of, like, close games went down to the wire for, like, especially the early slate. So, I mean, overall, I thought it was a pretty good week of football.
Yeah.
Was there any significant injuries that you noticed this past weekend?
Well, if it couldn't get any worse for the Cardinals, I mean, Carson Palmer broke his arm. That was pretty significant.
I mean, that's just like the exclamation point of the season right there for him. Like, that's just the way things have been going.
Yeah, that's how you know your season's done.
I mean, not only that, that's probably gonna be like the rest of the season. That's probably a season-ending injury. It might also be a career-ending injury for Carson Palmer too. I don't know, like what he's gonna do beyond this year, but he's dealt with a lot of injuries, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
So I mean, are you pretty much like avoiding a lot of like the Arizona players because Drew Stanton looked awful in Carson Palmer's place, and I know probably the only guy I'd really trust is Larry Fitzgerald. But even him is like I'm trying to move him if I can, but I don't know if you're going to get a whole lot for him at this point. It's kind of a bombshell.
Yeah, his buy window has definitely ended for me. So I don't know. Yeah, I think that yeah, he's the only one. But Drew Stanton has proved that he can't be an NFL quarterback. So,
yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to trust now. Even like a guy like that was succeeding behind him was Adrian Peterson. You seen him with Drew Stanton, and there wasn't a whole lot of running room there for him.
I mean, he didn't look really good at all this weekend.
No. Another notable injuries I've seen late in the game, Delaney Walker got hurt. It looked like it was like an ankle or a knee injury. He came up a little bit hobbled in there. Luckily, though, that whole Tennessee team gets a bye week to get a little bit healthy. So it's not really anything to worry about for going into this next week, but it's definitely something to keep your eye on if you're a Delaney Walker owner.
Definitely.
Same thing with DeMarco Murray. He had a shoulder injury. Did you hear about that?
No, I didn't. Because I knew the ailment he had all week was the hamstring, but now tack a shoulder onto that too.
That Dallas kicking game got adventurous after Dan Bailey went out with a groin injury.
Yeah, it was pretty
interesting.
That? The backup safety kicking.
He did. I think he may have one of them eventually.
Yeah. And not that it mattered.
And I kind of think like the revenge game or like the Super Bowl rematch. I thought that was kind of a disappointment.
Yeah, the Falcons, man, they just couldn't even get it going against one of the league's worst defenses. I mean,
how do you look that flat against that defense?
Yeah, I don't understand it. It's like it's got to be one of two things. It's got to be either Matt Ryan or it's got to be the offensive coordinator. It's got to be Sarkisian. And I feel like it's him because I've never liked the guy. He was a lame duck at USC, and that's where he is now. But Matt Ryan also isn't playing well. It just seems like he's not on the same page that with his other receivers. And it was like you were pointing out, of the 4 last seasons. I mean, his stats are on his career averages. He's just behind in touchdowns, but like last year was just such an outlier year for him.
I mean, yeah, he's really not doing anything outside of what he's done before in the past. Like it's pretty much right on par. It's just last year he was so prolific that now it's just he's regressing. It just seems like, man, this isn't what we're expecting out of him. But really, this is just what he does. But
yeah,
I do think the play calling could be a lot better. I mean, the first half, Julio Jones only had 2 catches for 30 yards. And then they started peppering him in the second half, and look what happened. Good things happen when you give Julio Jones the ball. He scores a touchdown. So, you know what I mean? It's stuff like that. And then when I think one of the stupidest, most puzzling calls I've seen all night was it was 4th and goal at the goal line, and they called a reverse. Like, who calls a reverse at the goal line?
Yeah, no one.
I just thought that was a terrible call.
Yeah, that was a pretty lame duck call for sure.
But let's you want to get into some of these quarterbacks. Is there any quarterbacks that you have on your radar for a streaming option?
Actually, I really haven't looked at quarterbacks, to be completely honest with you. I almost never do, but yeah, I probably should.
All right, well, I'll take this one. Andy Dalton, he's at home next week against the Indianapolis Colts. I know that Andy Dalton looked a little bit shaky against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has a pretty tough pass defense. Indianapolis, they've been pretty much giving it up in the air to pretty much everyone they played, even Blake Bortles. So I think you can feel very comfortable if you're on a Week 8 bye with your quarterback. Go ahead, plug in Andy Dalton.
Yeah, that's true. Dare I say it? Would you start Case Keenum against the Browns?
That was another one. He looks kind of shaky from week to week, but I mean he is playing the Browns, but it's on the road. And what if he doesn't have Stephon Diggs? That's a question mark.
Yeah.
There's definitely better options out there.
It's a classic case of good matchup, bad quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's like a terrible. I don't think he's as terrible as what he was in like St. Louis, but he's still not that great.
Hashtag bad.
I think Tyrod Taylor at home against Oakland is a pretty good one. He went over 300 yards this past week against Tampa Bay, total yards, that is. Because he had 53 yards on the ground. He pretty much shredded, pretty much was able to do whatever he wanted against Tampa Bay for the most part. I think he did throw 1 interception in that game, but he has another nice matchup this week against Oakland, and next week he goes on the road against the Jets, and I think after that he plays the Saints, so he has a string of nice matchups. It's just going to be interesting to see if he can maintain like this kind of consistency, though.
Yeah.
Are you feeling any beat hard?
Yeah, I was gonna float him. The 49ers as a whole had a rough weekend, but he does play Philly, so I don't think that's a terrible matchup. But I mean, this is the 49ers we're talking about, so you'd have to be pretty you have to be pretty desperate at this point. I know there's a lot of buys this week. I think that you could possibly use them.
I mean, maybe if you're in like a 16-team league or something.
A 2-quarterback league. I'm just saying, if you're really desperate.
Yeah. If you want to go look into the future, let's go sniping into Week 9. Jared Goff, he goes on the road, but he plays the Giants. I know that the Giants have been giving up some passing yards. That might not be a bad matchup for him, especially if the Giants have trouble moving the ball. It's going to tire out their defense. Like I said, the Tyrod plays the Jets. Would you have the ball? Would you have the balls to play Trevor Siemian against the Eagles? Probably not. He's looked terrible.
Yeah, that looked terrible. Honestly though, everybody, as a Broncos fan, as much as I want to blame Siemian as much as the next guy. But here's the thing: that offensive line play was horrible, man. So I think that has a lot to do with it. But yeah, the Broncos offense, you just avoid them going forward.
We almost missed talking about how Jay Cutler got knocked out of the game too, and Matt Moore stepped in, and the Dolphins actually looked better.
You know what's funny is his coach, when he was talking about the injury, he said he's got multiple cracked ribs. Basically almost an obvious, like, he's going to miss this week. Well, he didn't immediately rule him out. And he's like, well, I don't know if we're going to have Jay this week. It's kind of hard, because he literally is having trouble breathing right now. So it's like, how come you just didn't rule him out? If you can't even breathe, how can you throw on pads?
This just defies basic logic, I guess,
Yeah, I mean, Adam Gase, man, I think he's lost a couple brain cells.
Now, I just wanted to say, though, I think their offense looks a lot better with Matt Moore. I think this might be a blessing in disguise for Miami.
Yeah, I think so, too. I was thinking about it, and, face value, Jay Cutler sounded like a good idea season start, but, now it's kind of – I've always been a defensible guy on Matt Moore. He's not like he's not flashy. He doesn't have like super great arm strength, but he gets the job done. I don't think that there's a significant drop off between him and anybody else. Like as far as like a guy like Tannehill, there's not really a drop off. Same with Jay Cutler. Like in fact, I think if anything, you're getting more.
Well, I think everyone was kind of blinded by the fact that, it's Jay Cutler, Adam Gase, and wow. I think they kind of blinded by the fact that it was Jay Cutler. He's actually pretty bad. Like, he was pretty bad in Chicago. Like, there's a reason why Chicago didn't want him no more,
Yeah.
So, I don't think there's any other really quarterbacks. You're not starting Josh McCown. You're not going to start like Bortles again, are you? I mean, we can go on to running backs. Like I said, we noticed a lot of the same names from week to week. So what I decided to do is let's just start off with who do you think is going to be like the number one ad this week?
I'd probably say it's going to be one of the Oakland handcuffs. Whether you want probably Jalen Richard seems like the popular choice to take that Oakland, but I don't think it's really anything to get excited about because, Oakland's backfield hasn't really done anything, and they're not getting the touches they need.
Would you take either one of the Oakland running backs over Deion Lewis?
No, I would take Deion Lewis.
Would you take either one of the Oakland running backs over Latavius Murray?
If Latavius Murray's out there, I would take him.
Because Latavius Murray right now, he's 40% owned in or 41% owned in Yahoo leagues, so he might be out there. I know he did what you'd expect him to do if he's gonna have a good day. It's usually because he scored a touchdown, but he actually scored this one, I think, from outside of the red zone, so that was kind of nice to see. I wasn't expecting that. But, I mean, he should be owned. He's still hard to trust from week to week, so it's not anything great where you should really rush out and prioritize him or anything like that. I don't think that you're right to do that. As far as the Oakland running backs, you said you like Jalen Richard more. As far as was for like PPR leagues.
Yeah, I think that you want Jalen Richard, especially in a PPR league. I think really in any setting you're going to want Jalen Richard. I think he just has that edge over
cool.
Andrew Washington.
Kirk Cousins just threw a touchdown. Now I'm winning.
Jordan.
Okay, now I'm not watching the game. I'm just kind of getting updates. Yeah, I think Jalen Richard, he's definitely the better PPR player. Now I think he had like 4 or 5 catches the past game for Oakland. But on the other hand, DeAndre Washington, he had the rushing touchdown. So I think they're pretty much right down the middle as far as touches go. So I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I think as far as talent goes, I'm probably picking DeAndre Washington. I think he's the more talented running back.
Yeah, that's true. But, in fantasy, it's all about the opportunity. Honestly, this is a mess. I mean, if you have a free bench spot, should take one of them.
They're both getting the same amount of touches. I'm going to go with the guy that has more talent.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I don't know. I always go for the more competent pass catchers. I mean, then again, I do play in a lot of PPR, so that makes sense. But either way, I just really think because there's a chance I've heard that Marshawn might get his suspension overturned because I guess Marcus Peters said something about he was coming out to the field to calm me down. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm just saying, like, it's being talked about now that the suspension could be overturned. So, who knows? These guys might be obsolete too. And then again, think about it. It's only for 1 week, so,
I don't know. We'll see about that. I'd be hard-pressed to see him get that overturned after shoving a ref.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen either. But, I haven't seen where.
I mean, are you excited about maybe if you're not going to get a running back, you're not going to get one of the Oakland running backs, you're not getting Latavius Murray. What about Deion Lewis? Do you think that – I think he could possibly be one of the best – I think he could possibly be one of the best ads this week.
Yeah, I think if Deion Lewis is available in your league, you should definitely pick him up. He kind of cemented what his role is going to be going forward, and it looks like he's kind of spelling Gillislee, on a lot of stuff too. He's getting some
he's
work.
Getting more carries in him.
Yeah, and we all know that Deion Lewis is a really good pass catcher too, and especially if you're in a PPR league, even more reason to have him.
He is just now starting to warm up, but you also have to keep in mind that now Rex Burkhead is healthy, so now there's 4 running backs in this rotation. And actually, Rex Burkhead led all the running backs in carries in the first half, but then he didn't really get a whole lot in the second half. So I think this is still going to be a headache for most fantasy owners.
Yeah.
But if you're not going for a running back, Kamo, what kind of receiver are you going for?
I was noticing, too, it's still pretty bare for receivers, but some popular names I'm getting talked about. Kenny Stills, he went absolutely insane this weekend. He caught 2 touchdowns. He had 70 yards receiving, or right around there, I believe, and yeah, I mean, he seemed like an option for Matt Moore. So I think as long as a guy like Devontae Parker is out, you can definitely use him in your leagues as like a wide receiver 3. But that's the funny thing is that, Devontae Parker, it sounds like he's going to be back this week. So, I guess you could do worse. You definitely do worse.
I always just get this sense that that Devontae Parker is a slow healer for some reason. And also the Dolphins, their bye week was week 1. They may want to make their players sit out a little bit longer for their injuries to make sure that they're fully healed. I think that might have been the case of why Devontae Parker missed 2 games instead of just 1.
Yeah, I mean, because when it got reported, it sounded like it was going to be a minor injury. So it's just kind of like, yeah, So we'll see. But yeah, I think Kenny Stills is a good ad. I mean, you can definitely do worse.
Which one of these wide receivers would you rather stash on your fantasy team? Would you rather stash Corey Davis or Juju Smith-Schuster?
As of right this second, I think I would probably rather stash Corey Davis just because I know Martavius wants out of Pittsburgh, but there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. So until and the fact you have to remember, Le'Veon's usually getting about, anywhere between 20 and 30 touches a game. So that really, limits the upside of the passing game in Pittsburgh. So for me, I just think that Corey Davis, if he's healthy, he has a better trajectory to success.
Now, I do think that they both have pretty good upside. Corey Davis obviously has number 1 wide receiver upside, though, so I think that does make him the better stash. I'm not saying that he will be the number 1 when he's back, but he did have a pretty decent game in week 1 before he went out with his injury. So he definitely they put in a lot of stock for him in this draft, so that they're going to definitely want to get him out there and see what he can do. Juju Smith-Schuster, I think he's already starting to take over that number 2 role, but like you said, that they're so run heavy that it's not resulting in a lot of pass attempts for Ben Roethlisberger. What do you have, like 24 attempts this past week or something like that?
Yeah, and just looking at his targets, he's got he had 3 targets last week, and one of them happened to be a touchdown. The week before that, he had 3 targets again. So that's really, you want to see more than that. And the week before that, he had 6. But just overall, over 3 weeks, getting what is that? 15 targets. I mean, I don't know. It could be better.
Yeah, he's been like a 4 to 6 target type of guy.
Yeah.
Then I think Marlon Mack is still out there. You can go ahead and scoop him up. I think he's like 40% owned on Yahoo leagues. I think he's going to get more work going forward. Who would you rather own between these 2 receivers, Cooper Kupp or Mohamed Sanu?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I'd probably rather have Kupp, but I was actually I thank you for bringing him up because I was going to suggest, Mohamed Sanu, he's 38% owned in Yahoo leagues. He's definitely out there in a lot of leagues too. I think he could be worth an ad.
Mohamed Sanu has gotten it at 10 points or more every single week except for week 4 against Buffalo. He's been getting you 10 to 12 points every single week. I think he's a fantastic ad for depth, especially if you need him in a bye week pinch. Perfect. He's already hit his bye week, so he's a nice little bye week filler.
Yeah, and every week that he's been successful, he's gotten a healthy amount of targets. He's gotten 6 or more every game that he's done well.
Yeah, I think he just had 10 this past weekend too. So
you did have 10, yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I think that Cooper Kupp. It's nice to see that he scored a touchdown. I still think though playing that slot role, he doesn't have like a ton of upside. Robert Woods has still been the most consistent receiver out of the duo, but someone's got to score some touchdowns over there, I guess. Other than Todd Gurley.
Yeah.
Matt Forte caught a ton of passes. I think that you can, if you're hanging on to Elijah McGuire, you can go ahead and get Matt Forte if he's still available. Alan Hearns has always been out there. How you feel about Tyler Kroft as a weekly waiver player pickup if you're trying to stream tight ends? You think that he's like someone that you could trust?
Yeah, I think that Tyler Kroft is a pretty good ad. I mean, Andy Dalton's shown that he loves to throw to the tight end, whether that's Tyler Eckford or whoever. So I think that he's definitely worth it, especially, every year tight end is just it sucks. There's so many injuries. And then, when there is an injury to a noteworthy player, like say Greg Olsen, it's not like you can just pick up, whoever's behind him in Carolina, even though that actually happened to work out this year. It doesn't always happen that way. So I think that he could definitely you could add him and he could be very effective for your team.
Yeah, and Cincinnati actually has a lot of injuries going on with their receiving core. I mean, John Ross has been out, Tyler Boyd's been out, Tyler Eifert's been out. Like, they don't really have a whole lot over there, they're throwing deep balls to with Cody Core this past week,
Yeah, that's deep.
So I do think Tyler Kroft, with how volatile the tight end position is and how hit or miss it is from week to week, he's definitely worth an ad. You could plug him in a good matchup. How do you feel about Kenny Galladay as a stash? Because we do know Golden Tate, he's going to be out for multiple weeks. Someone's going to have to step in as that number 2 role.
Yeah, I was just going to say, thanks for stealing all my thunder. Yeah, no, with that Golden Tate injury, I think that Kenny Galladay is an awesome stash for your team. He's actually probably one of the better ones in the league. This guy has really, really great talent. I really like what I've seen out of him so far, and I think if he gets a good healthy amount of targets each week, he could definitely do something with that. And he's already proven that he's got some nice red zone rapport with Matthew Stafford, so you got to like that too.
Yeah, we've already seen him make some splash plays before he went down with an injury. He's still kind of trying to come back from a hamstring injury, but when he had the bye week this week to get healthy, I think we'll see him fill in as the Lions number 2 wonderfully, actually. So
I like it.
yep. Ted Ginn, hit or miss?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you got an extra bench spot, but you got to think about it in terms of this. What is it going to take for you to want to start a guy like Ted Ginn? I guess he plays in New Orleans. He is getting the targets. They throw 50 times a game, so it's like, I guess you could see it. But I personally, unless I was really desperate, would I have Ted Ginn on my team?
How about Buffalo's new de facto number 1 wide receiver, Deontay Thompson?
Yeah, I was actually just going to ask you what you thought of Jordan Matthews, because I've been hearing some questions about him. Should I add him? And I'm like, no, you shouldn't add him. He can be safely left on the wire.
Yeah, no. Say no to Jordan Matthews for right now. He didn't even really get. What, he got like 3 targets?
Yeah, something like that. Let me see. I'll confirm. But
yeah, I think it's not as bad as what? How many?
No, wait. Yeah, two targets.
Oh, 2 targets. Yeah, there you go. At least he caught his, right? Zay Jones had 9 targets, and he caught 2 of them.
Yeah, that's bad. That's bad.
And just keep trying to force these deep balls, though. It's like, Zay Jones ain't good. Why are you trying to do that? He is not Sammy Watkins. He's not going to come down with these.
Maybe Tyrod's trying to tell the Bills management something.
Yeah, but Deontay Thompson, he went over 100 yards. And the ball, like we said, they're dying for somebody to catch the ball over there. I guess you could do worse if you're in a deeper league.
They're talent starved.
How do you feel about O.J. Howard? He scored 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. That any tight end in a high-powered offense is going to be valuable. But then there's that whole rule of we're talking about Hunter Henry last year. Rookie tight ends, in most cases, they have that that year, that learning curve, as proven by a lot of players. So I would be careful. I wouldn't want to use him as my week-to-week starter. Maybe in a good matchup, I'd like to stream him. Maybe he's worth a stash. But yeah, I could see it.
It was kind of interesting that they're starting to use plays where, like, earlier in the year we were seeing Cameron Braid out in the slot a lot while he was in line. Well, there were some plays where their roles were actually the opposite, and as that's when we seen O.J. Howard score that touchdown down the sideline. That was one of those instances where that could have very easily just been Cameron Braid's touchdown. But if they see that he can do the same exact thing that Cameron Brate can do, they're like, well, all right, let's unleash him,
Yeah.
I don't know. Speculation. TJ Yeldon went over 100 yards. We're not sure how serious this Leonard Fournette injury is.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. He's just
it was kind of fluky, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very fluky to me. I'm not really buying too much into that because TJ Yeldon's he's had his chance, and he's just too small, and I don't think he's talented enough to really, do that, week in, week out. It's just, too fluky to predict.
All right. Is there any other tight ends that you can think of that might be out there?
No.
We got Jack Doyle. He's 44% owned. He is a tougher matchup against Cincinnati, but if you've seen a guy like Jared Cook, he went over 100 yards last week, 40% owned.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that. And Jared Cook, yeah, but yeah, I think I'm kind of good on Jack Doyle.
As far as defensive streamers are, I think that you can come back to Atlanta. They're going on the road against the Jets. I do like Cincinnati. They're at home against Indianapolis. Is there any ones that you like?
Yeah, I think Philadelphia plays San Francisco, so that's a good matchup. I like that.
That's a very good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like Cincinnati's defense. I think that they got a little bit exposed though by Pittsburgh last week. But since they have, I think Indianapolis's offense is going to struggle a lot though against Cincinnati. Kobe Brissett, he's a bit inconsistent at times. We've seen some games where he's been able to push the ball down the field, and there's other times where it looks like he's just trying to do too much with his feet. And Cincinnati typically has a pretty stingy defense, so I think that they'll rebound against them.
Definitely, yeah. I like Cincinnati too this week.
How do you feel about New Orleans?
Man,
They're playing Chicago.
It's so hard for me to trust New Orleans, but they play Chicago. I think that's about as good as it is. I mean, but even then, with Trubisky only throwing the ball 7 times, they were still able to beat the Panthers 17-3.
Yeah, I mean, the Panthers should be ashamed. That was embarrassing.
That was embarrassing. That was what made me feel good about the Broncos loss was like at least it wasn't to the Bears. with their starting quarterback only throwing 7 passes. I actually read that Trubisky was I think he was the first quarterback since like the 60s to win a game only throwing 4 passes.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's insane.
You know, Miami's defense, they really betrayed me. I thought that they'd do a lot better against the Jets than what they did. They really.
Yeah, so did I.
Would you trust them again in a good matchup, even if it was against Baltimore?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, yeah, I guess Baltimore's offense isn't scaring anybody, but fuck, man, the Jets.
I know, that's so disappointing, man. I think I still ended up getting like 8 or 9 points or something like that, but like, fuck.
Yeah, I know. That's so disappointing. Fuck.
Yeah. Is there any other defenses that you want to mention?
No, I'm good.
I am good too. I think this was a little bit better way of doing the waiver wires just because I'm sick of mentioning the same people over and over again, you know?
Yeah, it's always the same names because I think that a lot of these fantasy players, you know, they look at it and they realize who fool's gold and, who is for real, so.
Well, I think it's for the most part. I try to always focus the most on these running backs because running backs are the ones that can typically produce more from opportunity than wide receivers. Wide receivers, they have to rely on a quarterback, and a lot of wide receivers in the waiver wires don't typically hit compared to running backs.
Yeah, that's true.
So, just a little food for thought. Fifth Downers, if you enjoyed listening to this show, please leave us a rate and review on the iTunes. That'd be greatly appreciated. You can also find us on Spreaker and Stitcher for you non-iPhone users. Camille, any last words before we go?
I'm all right.
You're all right. I'm all right. We're all right. Thank you for listening, Fifth Downers. Have a great night.